Every empire begins in shadows. Before you learn to rise, and you must learn to disappear. Before you become respected, you must become invisible. In a world obsessed with showing off, you will stand out most by not being seen. Because here's the truth. The more they know about you, the easier you are to predict. And the easier you are to predict, the easier you are to control. Niccolò Machiavelli once said, "Never reveal all your cards. Appear weaker than you are until it's time to strike." See, most people misunderstand power. They think power is about shouting, posting, proving, flexing. But true power doesn't need to be loud. True power moves in silence like poison in a cup, unseen but inevitable. Ask yourself, when was the last time you let them think you fell off, just so you could rebuild in peace? When was the last time you didn't respond? Not because you couldn't, but because silence hit harder than words ever could. That's what leveling up in secret looks like. The moment you speak your next move, you give your enemies a head start. And yes, you have enemies, don't be naive. Not all enemies hold knives. Some smile, some clap, some say, "I'm proud of you." But deep down, they're watching for weakness. Machiavelli wrote that envy is inevitable among the mediocre. When they see your rise, they'll whisper. When they sense your growth, they'll plot. That's why kings don't shout from the rooftops. They plan in candlelit rooms where every word is measured and every silence has meaning. So I ask you again, are you planning in silence or performing for validation? Drop a "silence wins" in the comments if you move in the dark. When you vanish, people get uncomfortable. They start asking, "Where's he been? Why is she so quiet lately? Did something happen?" Good. Let them talk. Their confusion is your cover. While they're guessing, you're building. While they're gossiping, you're learning. While they're distracted, you're becoming someone they won't even recognize when you return. You ever notice how people treat you differently when they can't figure you out? It's because mystery triggers respect. You don't have to say you're leveling up. Your silence says it for you. Machiavelli said, "The appearance of virtue is more important than virtue itself." He didn't mean be fake. He meant control perception. People judge not by truth, but by appearance. So while you're working in silence, you also control what they see. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're done. That's the art. You give them a version of you to focus on, while the real you grows behind the curtain. Ask yourself this: if no one could see your progress, would you still fight for it? Would you still grind with the same hunger? Because that's what separates the real from the performative. When you can work in silence without the applause, that's when you become dangerous. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Not everyone wants you to win, even your friends, even your family. Sometimes especially them. Machiavelli knew this. He said, "Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." Meaning, people will forgive everything except your success. You start making progress and watch how quickly their tone changes. So stop announcing what you're building. Stop seeking applause for your discipline. Build so quietly that when you show up, they have no choice but to ask, "When did he become this powerful?" Confusion is a weapon. When they can't read you, they can't prepare for you. When they can't predict you, they can't stop you. This is the mindset of a strategist, the Machiavellian operator. You vanish, you rebuild, and when you return, you don't brag. You demonstrate. Results speak louder than words, but mystery screams louder than both. So stay quiet, stay working, and let your success announce itself like thunder after a long silence. You don't need validation, you need vengeance in the form of transformation. When you move in silence, you become unpredictable. When you're unpredictable, you become untouchable. So tonight, disappear for a while. Lock in, cut off distractions, let the noise fade, because when you come back, you won't just return, you'll arrive. If you need to be seen to feel alive, you're already dying. That's what Machiavelli would whisper to the modern mind, because in this world, validation is the new addiction. And most people, no matter how loud, confident, or successful they seem, are starving for approval like beggars in royal clothes. Think about it. Every day you post, share, talk, announce just to hear something back. Nice. Congrats. Keep going. And you feel that little spark, that hit, that momentary high. But what happens when it fades? You chase it again, you perform again, you bend again. That's not confidence, that's dependency. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He said a ruler must never rely on others for power, because what can be given can be taken away. And if your self-worth depends on being seen, you've already lost control of yourself. Let me ask you something. If no one could like, comment, or watch what you're doing, would you still grind the same? Would you still wake up early, push through, and create in silence? Or would you slow down the moment the applause stopped? That's how you find out who's real. The real ones build when no one's watching. The weak ones only move when they think someone's paying attention. The people who need validation are controlled by the crowd. The people who move without it control the crowd. Machiavelli didn't chase popularity. He studied it. He manipulated it. He used it as a weapon. In The Prince, he wrote that to appear powerful, you must seem virtuous, seem loved, even if behind the scenes you're cold, strategic, detached. He understood that validation was a tool, not a need. So the lesson is this: learn to use validation without being used by it. Let the world feed off your image, your aura, your myth, but never your hunger for approval. Because the moment they know what makes you feel seen, they can control what makes you feel invisible. And that, my friends, is how they own you. Let's talk psychology. When you constantly seek recognition, your brain wires itself around reaction. You become emotionally dependent, like a lab rat pressing a lever for dopamine. They post, you scroll, they praise, you glow, they ignore, you crumble. You become predictable. And predictability kills power. Machiavelli said the powerful man must appear emotionally steady, unshaken by praise or insult. You must learn to be self-fed. So, here's the dark exercise. Start with holding your own validation. When you achieve something, don't announce it. When you buy something new, don't post it. When you make a move, let no one know. Train your ego to survive on silence. Ask yourself right now, can you enjoy your progress in private? Can you celebrate alone without the applause? If you can, you're becoming dangerous. Because when your confidence stops depending on noise, you become unstoppable in peace. People underestimate the quiet one. They think you're shy, they think you're unsure. They have no idea you're simply detached. That's what Machiavelli meant when he wrote, "He who controls his emotions controls the emotions of others." When you starve your need for validation, you gain the ability to control how others chase yours. Now they seek your approval. Now they wonder if they impressed you. Now you've flipped the dynamic. They become the performer, you become the judge. This is psychological reversal. It's not about arrogance, it's about power balance, because when you stop needing, you start attracting. And what you attract, you control. Here's how you break the addiction. 1. Go silent for 7 days. No posts, no updates, no validation loops. Let people wonder if you disappeared. During that time, track how restless you feel. That restlessness, that's dependency leaving your system. 2. Redefine success privately. Write your wins down in a notebook. Don't share them, don't explain them. Let your success exist only in your mind, like a secret weapon. 3. Delay your dopamine. When you finish a task, don't reward yourself right away. Wait. Let your brain relearn discipline. 4. Observe others craving attention. Notice how desperate it looks. Notice how chaotic their energy feels. Promise yourself you'll never be that predictable. These are not random habits, they are psychological conditioning, a rewiring of the ego from external to internal validation. When you've trained yourself to not need validation, you become a ghost in a world of addicts. You move untouched by praise or hate. You can't be manipulated by compliments. You can't be baited by silence. You can't be controlled through attention. You become what Machiavelli called a man feared and respected not for his words, but for his restraint. And restraint is terrifying, because it means you can feel but choose not to react. That's the difference between those who chase approval and those who command it. Ask yourself this right now. Are you performing for love, signs, or preparing for power? Because one of those dies when people stop clapping, the other survives the silence. So starve your validation addiction, cut off the noise that feeds your weakness, rewire your mind to crave solitude over spotlight, because when you no longer need them to clap, you can finally move like a king. And kings, they don't need to be seen, they just need to be felt. So the weak crave speed, the strong crave certainty. You see, everyone wants now fast success, fast fame, fast validation. They want to plant today and harvest tomorrow. But Machiavelli, he didn't think like that. He saw life like a chessboard. And on that board, every move was patient, deliberate, psychological. He understood something most people never will. The slower you move, the more dangerous you become. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the prepared mind. That means opportunities don't belong to the lucky, they belong to the patient. Patience is not waiting. Patience is the art of strategic timing, knowing when to strike, and more importantly, when not to. Ask yourself, how many times did you ruin your own progress because you moved too soon? You spoke too early, you showed too much, you reacted too fast. That's not ambition. That's emotional immaturity disguised as drive. In the psychology of power, speed kills precision. The fastest don't win, the most strategic do. Let me paint you a picture. A snake doesn't strike the moment it sees the prey. It studies, it measures distance, it waits for silence. Then, one precise move. That's Machiavellian. The impatient man wants to prove himself. The strategist wants to position himself. Machiavelli once observed that the impatient ruler exposes his weaknesses too early. He teaches his enemies his rhythm. He gives away his advantage. So when you move too fast, you're showing your hand. When you take your time, you're training the world to underestimate you. Ask yourself, are you chasing moments or building momentum? Because moments fade. Momentum lasts. There's a reason patience is one of the hardest traits to master. It fights against your biology. Your brain wants instant gratification. It's addicted to reward loops. But the powerful rewire their biology. They learn to delay reward until it becomes a weapon. Machiavelli taught that the mind must rule the heart, because the heart wants now, but the mind sees later. So patience is not weakness. Patience is emotional dominance. Every time you resist the urge to react, you build internal gravity, a presence that draws power toward you without force. That's dark psychology. You're not chasing energy, you're pulling it in. Let's bring this down to your reality. You want to level up? Cool. Then stop broadcasting every phase of your growth. You don't need to show every gym check-in, every dollar made, every self-improvement milestone. You're not in a race with anyone. When you post every move, you invite opinion, and opinion breeds resistance. Machiavelli knew that the best strategy is the one no one sees coming, because when they can't track your progress, they can't prepare for your arrival. So adopt what I call the slow burn lifestyle. You study in silence. You work behind curtains. You grow without applause. You learn without announcing, without... Then one day you appear, and they think it happened overnight. But it didn't. It was 1,000 silent nights, building the version of you they're now shocked by. That's how silent ascenders operate. That's how Machiavellian minds move in modern times. You ever notice how confident people move slowly? They don't rush their sentences. They don't fill silence with noise. They let others panic in the quiet. That's psychological dominance, because the one who controls the pace controls the room. Machiavelli studied kings who ruled entire empires with stillness. He noted that A wise prince knows when not to act, meaning restraint itself is an act of power. Try this in conversation. When someone tries to provoke you, say don't react. Let them talk. Let them reveal everything. The silence will eat at them. People fear silence because it forces them to face themselves. When you master stillness, you become their mirror. And most people hate what they see, so they'll call you distant, cold, mysterious. Good. That's power language. That's the vocabulary of kings. Machiavelli saw leadership as a long game. He didn't plan for days. He planned for decades. He believed the future belonged to those who could delay their emotions long enough to think logically when everyone else reacted emotionally. That's your competitive edge. The world is impulsive. People quit fast. They break easily. They want shortcuts. So all you have to do is last longer. When others lose patience, that's your moment to take control. When they fold, you move. When they rush, you rest. You become a calm storm, silent, steady, inevitable. You see, the slow burn isn't about moving slow. It's about building precision, focus, and timing so lethal that every move feels like destiny. Here's something most don't realize. Patience creates leverage. Because when you're patient, you have options. And when you have options, you can walk away. And when you can walk away, you have power. That's the secret Machiavelli saw in politics, war, and human nature. The one who waits longest, and he always dictates the terms. Ask yourself this right now. Who are you letting rush you? Who are you allowing to make you react? When you feel urgency, stop and ask, who benefits from my reaction? 9 times out of 10, it's not you. So stop being baited by emotion. Breathe, step back, think. Because when you slow down your reaction, you speed up your rise. Here's how to practice the slow burn mindset every day. 1. Delay responses. Don't text back right away. Don't answer immediately. Learn to pause, not out of ego, but power. 2. Observe emotional triggers. Every time you feel impatient, say nothing. Watch what happens. You'll start noticing how quickly others lose control when you don't react. 3. Track progress privately. Build a private log of your growth, your wins, lessons, strategies. No one needs to know. And 4. Reward patience. Every time you wait and win, acknowledge it. Reinforce the habit. Patience is psychological armor. The longer you wear it, the less they can touch you. Machiavelli said, "He who builds slowly builds forever, because what is built in silence cannot be destroyed by noise." So slow your rise, starve your need to rush. Detach from the dopamine of fast results. You're not behind, you're becoming. You're not late, you're loading. You're not quiet, and you're calculating. And one day when your results roar loud enough to shake the silence, they'll think you came from nowhere, but you'll know you came from patience. The moment you react, you lose leverage. Niccolò Machiavelli. Most people live as slaves to emotion. They respond instantly to texts, to gossip, to disrespect. They get triggered, they explode, they defend, they overshare. But Machiavelli understood something brutal. He who angers you conquers you. Because when you react, you reveal what controls you. You show your emotional buttons, and the world will keep pressing them. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, watch, study their motive. Ask yourself, why are they trying to pull this response out of me? That single moment of silence flips the entire power dynamic. Now you're not the one being controlled, you're the one collecting data. In the psychology of power, the observer always wins. While the emotional person burns energy, the observer gathers intelligence. While they talk, you calculate. While they reveal, you conceal. Machiavelli compared it to warfare. A general who shows his plan too soon invites defeat. And human interaction is no different. The loud one in the room might seem dominant, but the quiet one controls the energy. He reads the tone, the body language, the insecurity behind the jokes, the desperation behind the arrogance. Ask yourself, do you really need to prove anything to people who don't even know who they are? Or would you rather read them like a book and let them write your advantage for you? That's how you win without fighting. There is something unsettling about someone who doesn't react, because people expect chaos. They expect anger, validation, defensiveness. When you give them nothing, they panic. Silence is not weakness. Silence is the sound of strategy forming. When you pause before you respond, even for a few seconds, you show mastery over yourself, and whoever masters themselves controls the field. Let me give you an example. Someone insults you. You look at them, no words, no smirk, no blink, just observation. They start to feel their own insecurity echo back at them. They start talking faster, justifying themselves, losing control. You didn't fight them. You made them fight themselves. That's Machiavellian warfare. Observation is not just about watching, it's about decoding. The way someone phrases things, the way they hesitate before lying, the way they glance sideways when you challenge them subtly. Every person exposes themselves if you stay silent long enough. In a conversation, try this. Ask a simple question, then shut up. Count the seconds. Let the silence hang. They'll fill it, and in doing so, they'll tell you what they're afraid of. Because silence forces truth to surface, most people can't handle it. They'll rush to break it, and in doing so, they hand you power. Machiavelli used this principle with kings and courtiers alike. He'd let them talk, and in their eagerness to impress him, they'd reveal exactly what they wanted, feared, and envied. That's not luck, that's psychological engineering. To observe without reacting, you must build a mask. A calm, unreadable face that hides all storms behind it. Machiavelli taught that appearances are weapons. He said, "A prince must learn how not to be good and use it when necessary." That doesn't mean evil, it means control. Control over your expression, your tone, your body language. Your face becomes your fortress. Your silence becomes your sword. Imagine this, they insult you, you smirk. They gossip, you listen. They test you, you stay still. That's not weakness. That's psychological superiority. Because every reaction reveals data, but every silence creates tension, and tension is leverage. Let's get practical. Here's how you train yourself to observe without reacting every day. 1. Emotional delay. When triggered, count to 10. Not to calm down, but to study your own mind in the moment. Ask, why did that bother me? That self-awareness builds armor. 2. Strategic listening. In every conversation, aim to speak last. Let everyone reveal their cards before you play yours. You'll always sound wiser when you speak from data, not impulse. 3. Facial neutrality training. Watch yourself in a mirror. Practice stillness. No smirk, no eye twitch, no flinch. Teach your face not to betray your thoughts. 4. Information. Mining. When people talk, don't just hear their words, listen for intent. Most people don't communicate, they confess. And 5. Controlled revelation. Only reveal information that serves your purpose. Mystery builds power. Exposure invites attack. These are not habits, they are weapons. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you send a signal, I can't be moved. And that terrifies people who live off reaction. You ever notice how calmness feels like intimidation when it's real? That's because silence makes people confront their own insecurity. They can't figure you out, so they start projecting their own chaos onto you. They accuse you of being cold, heartless, arrogant. Good. That means your stillness is working. Machiavelli said that perception is power. If they see you as emotionless, they assume you're stronger. And in politics, as in life, perception is reality. So don't rush to correct them. Let them fear your calmness. Let them confuse silence for superiority, because in their minds, it is. To observe without reacting is to graduate from the emotional to the strategic. You stop being a participant in chaos and become the architect of it. You learn that silence is not empty, it's loaded. Every pause, every stare, every unspoken word creates space for dominance. So stop reacting to the noise, start watching it. Because when you observe, you predict. And when you predict, you control. Ask yourself, who are you letting control your emotions? Who can still make you react? And how much longer will you give them that power? Take it back by taking a breath. Don't react, just watch. Because in the dark psychology of power, observation is the first step to domination. In a time where everyone is begging to be seen, the most powerful flex is to be rare. Think about it. Everyone's talking, everyone's posting, everyone's desperate to be visible. And then there's you, calm, silent, selective, the one who doesn't show up everywhere. But when you do, everything stops. That's how you become valuable. Machiavelli studied kings who controlled presence like a weapon. He wrote that a ruler must appear seldom, but with such greatness that his absence is felt and his return is feared. That's what you need to become, a presence that haunts the room even when you're not in it. Your energy is your kingdom. Your time, your attention, your focus, all of it is currency in the psychological economy of life. And most people spend it like they'll never run out. They let everyone in. They give their attention to gossip, negativity, meaningless arguments. But every conversation drains you. Every distraction costs you. Every open door allows someone else's chaos to walk in and rearrange your peace. So ask yourself, who has access to your mind right now? Who's draining you under the disguise of checking in? If your answer includes people who add no value, you're already being robbed. Machiavelli said that a wise ruler keeps his circle small and his motives smaller. In modern terms, stop being emotionally available to everyone. Protect your peace like it's classified information. Here's what dark psychology teaches. People respect what they can't access easily. Scarcity creates desire. The moment you make yourself too available, your value plummets. You become common, replaceable, predictable. You ever notice how people chase those who seem disinterested? That's not arrogance, that's controlled distance. A Machiavellian understands this and uses it deliberately. You don't pull away out of ego, you pull away to protect leverage. If people can predict your mood, your reaction, your availability, they can manipulate it. So you must train yourself to become mysterious again. That's not being antisocial. That's being strategic with your energy. Machiavelli advised princes to divide their world into circles of access. The closest circle, trusted, rare, chosen. The outer circles, kept entertained, but distanced. That's how you maintain control without appearing distant. In your life, do the same. Inner circle, the ones who sharpen you, the loyal few who don't drain your peace. Middle circle, people you engage with occasionally, but never reveal too much to. Outer circle, everyone else. They see the image, not the essence. Control your exposure, because once everyone can touch your energy, no one values it anymore. Every few months vanish, no explanation, no announcement, no goodbye post, just disappear. Let the silence clean your energy. Let people wonder where you went. Let them feel what happens when your presence isn't accessible. That's the power of absence. When you reappear, you'll feel sharper, calmer, and more focused. And they'll feel the difference too. Machiavelli said that absence strengthens respect because distance breeds demand. So make your presence rare, make your energy expensive, make access to you a privilege, not a right. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to something that could build you. The weak can't say no. They fear rejection, judgment, or missing out. But the powerful know that saying no is an act of self-respect. Because no keeps your power concentrated. It's your shield against manipulation. When you start saying no calmly, quietly, without apology, you train people how to treat you. You teach them that your time isn't a free commodity. And here's the Machiavellian twist. People admire what they can't fully control. They respect what they can't easily influence. Your no becomes the border of your kingdom. You can't be mysterious and always online. You can't be powerful and always explaining. You can't be respected if you're constantly seeking reassurance. Power demands contrast, silence against noise, stillness against chaos. So you have to become more selective. Not everyone deserves to know what's going on in your life. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every opinion needs your energy. Ask yourself, what are you currently feeding that isn't feeding you back? Who gets your energy that doesn't deserve your access? Write their names down and start building walls. Because kings don't argue in the marketplace. They watch from the balcony and let the peasants scream below. That's not arrogance, that's discipline. Machiavelli once wrote that the one who guards his secrets guards his power. Your secrets are not just words, they're your peace, your plan, your purpose, your focus. Protect them, because the moment you explain your vision to small minds, you give them permission to infect it. So from now on, don't tell them what you're working on, don't explain why you're distant, don't defend your silence. Move in peace, protect your energy. Let the world wonder, because power, once protected, multiplies. Ask yourself this before you leave tonight. If your energy was a currency, how broke would you be? How many people are spending it freely, without ever paying you back in loyalty, love, or peace? Because if everyone can reach you, no one will need to. Protect your energy like a secret, and you'll find that your silence becomes your crown. Power is like a seed. It grows best when it's buried deep where no one can touch it. Machiavelli knew that every empire begins long before the world sees it. He understood that real strength isn't loud, it's layered, it's not announced, it's engineered. And in a world obsessed with exposure, the one who builds quietly becomes the one who eventually controls the noise. Most people chase the spotlight before they've built the foundation. They crave recognition before they've earned resilience. They show their hand before the game even starts. But Machiavelli warned rulers against this kind of premature victory. He said, "Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak." Why? Because when they don't know what you're capable of, they can't prepare for what's coming. So while they're seeking attention, you build structure. While they're performing, you're positioning. While they're talking, you're training. That's the difference between someone who wants to be seen and someone who wants to be remembered. Power doesn't always come from force. It comes from leverage, having something that gives you control over situations without needing to shout. Leverage can be knowledge others don't have, resources others depend on, connections others need access to, discipline others can't imitate. You don't need to dominate people. You just need to make yourself essential in their plans. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince should make himself necessary. That's how you gain invisible influence, by becoming the piece they can't move without. So, start asking yourself, what do I have that no one can replace? What skill, mindset, or resource can I quietly master that will make me irreplaceable later? Because the world doesn't reward the loud, it rewards the indispensable. Building power quietly means your progress is invisible until it's undeniable. While others need witnesses, you need results. You don't post your practice, you don't broadcast your brainstorming, You don't parade your preparation, because every time you expose a plan, you invite interference. Machiavelli compared it to war. A wise commander never reveals his formation before the battle. So stop announcing what you're working on. Don't tell them what you're building. Tell them nothing. And when it's finished, it'll speak so loudly they'll think it appeared out of thin air. That's not arrogance. That's discipline, the quiet, methodical kind that terrifies people who rely on attention to feel alive. Let's go deeper. Power isn't just about what you own or control. It's about what you can withhold. The most powerful person in any room is the one who doesn't need anything from anyone there. That's emotional freedom, and Machiavelli believed that dependence is the death of influence. So while others chase alliances out of desperation, you build them out of strategy. While they chase attention to feel important, you build value that makes you untouchable. And you do all of it in silence. Because every strong structure must be built in private, where there's no wind, no noise, no audience. Before you ever rule the outer world, you must master the inner one. Machiavelli understood that power starts with control over the self, over impulses, distractions, emotions, and habits. He said, "He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city." So you start small. Wake up earlier than the world. Train your mind to think before reacting. Study when others scroll. Save when others spend. Plan when others party. These are not small acts. They're bricks. Each one placed quietly builds the invisible castle of discipline that your future self will live in. And the beautiful thing about inner work is this: no one can take credit for it but you. No one can interfere with it but you. That's true sovereignty. In the discourses, Machiavelli outlined how wise men shaped entire nations without ever sitting on a throne. They did it by influencing the throne itself, quietly. That's what you must become, the person with quiet pull, the one whose word carries weight, even when spoken softly. You do this by becoming excellent at something rare, offering value without revealing full intent, staying consistent long enough to outlast the loud ones. Because while they're burning bright and fast, you're burning slow and eternal. They'll fade before you even reveal your full potential. The impatient man wants recognition. The strategic man wants position. And position lasts longer than popularity. Every move you make should serve a larger structure, even if no one sees it yet. You're not building for the month. You're building for the decade. That's why Machiavelli admired those who could play both sides, appear harmless but be quietly stacking advantage in the background. You're not faking humility. You're hiding strategy. You're not invisible because you're weak. You're invisible because visibility ruins leverage. So keep the long game sacred. No one needs to understand it but you. If you want to build power silently, live by these principles. 1. Work where no one can see you. The less they can observe, the more unpredictable you become. 2. Show fragments, not the full picture. Reveal progress selectively, only when it serves a purpose. 3. Create multiple layers. Money, skill, reputation, connections. Build them all quietly, so if one fails, another stands. 4. Reward secrecy. Every time you resist bragging, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you protect your process, you multiply your results. And 5. Move slow, but never stop. Because slow progress doesn't show, but it stacks. That's the creed of the quiet builder. Machiavelli said, "He who controls appearances controls outcomes." So let them think you're average. Let them sleep on you. Let them doubt your silence. Because silence is your camouflage. And one day, when the curtain lifts, they'll realize you were building an empire while they were seeking attention. The loud rise fast and fall faster, but the silent, they rise slow and never come down. The one who returns from silence returns as a myth. You disappeared, you trained in private, you starved your ego, mastered your emotions, and built your empire brick by brick in the dark. And now, it's time to return. But you don't come back loud, you don't come back desperate for recognition. You come back inevitable, because kings don't announce their arrival. They walk in and the room rearranges itself. When you've been silent long enough, the world forgets your rhythm. They stop watching, they stop expecting. And that's exactly when you strike. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote that a ruler should appear suddenly and decisively, as if fortune itself announced him. You are not to crawl back, you are to re-enter. When you walk into a room, speak slower than before. Hold longer eye contact. Let your silence carry weight. Let people feel you before you say a word, because your presence has changed. And that change, that new gravity, doesn't need introduction. It demands recognition. When you level up in private, something subtle happens. Your aura becomes heavier. You move slower, you think deeper, you don't over-explain, you don't overcompensate. Machiavelli said that a wise prince must be both loved and feared, but never predictable. That's your new energy, calm unpredictability. You smile less, but when you do, it matters. You speak less, but when you do, it shifts the room. Because you've learned that mystery is the language of power. The less they know, the more they imagine. And what they imagine will always be greater than what you could ever explain. You don't need revenge. Your existence as a higher version of yourself is revenge. When they see you now, calm, disciplined, unreadable, they'll feel it before they understand it. They'll sense the distance. They'll realize you're no longer accessible. And their instinct will be to chase the version of you they can no longer reach. That's not arrogance. That's transformation. Because you didn't come back for validation. You came back for dominance, dominance through mastery, dominance through silence, dominance through self-control so powerful it radiates without words. Machiavelli would call this psychological sovereignty, the moment when others sense that you don't need them, and that realization breaks them quietly inside. Let me tell you something most will never understand. Once you evolve, the old world will no longer recognize you. You'll walk into familiar places and feel foreign. You'll outgrow conversations, environments, even desires. People will try to pull you back, not because they hate you, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. So don't shrink to fit their comfort. Let the distance grow. Machiavelli warned that power must constantly evolve or risk decay. You either keep ascending or you start dissolving. That's why your comeback isn't a return to who you were. It's a reveal of who you've become. You're not picking up where you left off. You're walking out of the shadows wearing a crown made of every version of you that refused to quit. Machiavelli taught that to maintain power, a ruler must reveal selectively. Never everything, never all at once. The same goes for your rebirth. You don't show the full extent of your glow-up in one burst. You let it unfold like a slow eclipse, a piece at a time, until everyone around you is consumed by curiosity. They'll say things like, "There's something different about you. I can't put my finger on it. What happened to you?" Don't explain. Let the silence answer for you, because mystery builds momentum, and in the game of perception, the less you say, the more they believe. When you re-enter the world, follow these Machiavellian rules. 1. Never over-explain your transformation. The moment you justify, you weaken the power of your silence. 2. Control your entrances. Don't show up everywhere. Appear selectively when it matters. 3. Upgrade your posture and pace. Power moves slowly. Never rush, never chase. 4. Let results speak before you do. If they ask where you've been, let your new life answer the question. And 5. Keep your circles smaller than ever. Royalty does not mingle with chaos. This is how you maintain the aura you built in isolation. Because when you come back, you're not supposed to blend in. You're supposed to shift the temperature of the room. A crown isn't gold, it's composure. It's the ability to stay unmoved while others panic. Machiavelli believed that rulers lose power not when enemies attack, but when they start reacting emotionally. So as you rise, guard your peace like a fortress. Don't argue, don't explain, don't retaliate. Every overreaction is a leak in your armor. Be calm, be still, be precise. The new you doesn't compete, it commands. And when you walk into chaos and remain unshaken, people start looking to you as the center of gravity. That's what power looks like. Not control over others, control over yourself in the presence of others. Machiavelli once said, "He who becomes a new ruler must destroy the old structure, root and branch." That means to become your next self, you must kill your last one completely. No returning to old habits, no explaining to old friends, no playing small to make others comfortable. When you reappear, you do so as a stranger to your past, a living contradiction to who you once were. Let them gossip, let them whisper, let them wonder, because you didn't come back for their approval, you came back for your throne. You've learned the laws of silence, you've mastered patience, you've observed without reacting, you've protected your energy, you've built your empire in the shadows. Now, it's time. Walk back into the world, not as who you were, but as what you've become. Move like royalty, speak like prophecy, act like inevitability, because power doesn't beg to be seen, it forces the world to look. You were born to be silent in the making and deafening in the becoming.